Hello, and welcome to the Leisurely Learning EquatIO series. In this series, we will go over in depth how to use the various parts of the EquatIO extension to best support your students. In this video, we will be reviewing all of the features available in the graph editor. Let's get started. All right, so the graph editor can be found down here in the toolbar. It is the third from the left. And the first thing you're going to notice when we open it is that it's actually Desmos that has been integrated into EquatIO. So you have a lot of same features that you have in Desmos if you've used it before. The first thing here is you're going to see numbers. This is what allows you to put in different formulas. So you can just click on a number to add, or you can go to the plus sign and you have more options. So you can add expressions, notes, tables, folders, or images. To the right of that, we have undo and redo. Then we have our gear, which would allow us to either duplicate or delete things individually, or we can delete all of them. The two arrows to the left will hide the sidebar, and the two arrows to the right will bring it back. Over on the right-hand side, we will see the wrench. These are our graph settings. So we can change the contrast here. We can change and bring on Braille mode, which would allow us to actually hear the graph. We can change the grid format. We can remove the numbers and the minor axes if we want. We can add arrows. We can add labels. So if we were doing something a little less math and a little bit more scientific, we could put in distance over time, something like that. We'll put in X and Y axis here. You can also adjust the scale here. So I'm going to make this -10 and make this +10. And you can adjust the steps, so how much you want it to go up by each time. You also have the ability to change between radians and degrees if you're graphing waves. So the next things you're going to notice is a zoom in and a zoom out, and then you have a home button, which will take you back to the default zoom. This, of course, will remove all the stuff that you've done in the settings, so I highly suggest changing the settings at the end. So let's first put in an equation. So I'm going to go y equals, and I'm going to put in my x squared, and that's going to give me a graph. And when I'm on the graph, I can hover over points and it will tell me what those points are, right? I can click on a point and drag it and it will give me information on that point. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the page. I'm just going to click the graph editor button to hide it. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to copy this information. And I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to paste it as a note just so that I don't have to keep flipping back and forth. So now I've got my information, I can come in and I can graph this. So I can go y equals, and I've got a horizontal compression of 1/3. So again, I'm going to use the slash button to make that fraction, and the arrow button on my keyboard to bring it back up in a line. It's a negative reflection, so I'm going to put a negative in front of there. It has a horizontal, let's put in the actual x squared first there. Has a vertical shift of 2, so we're going to put that in, and then it's got a horizontal shift of -1. So let's go in and put that in there. So now I've got my graph, and again, you can see points here, right? So I can go in and do that as well. If I wanted to label that vertex, I could come in here and I could put in the vertex, which is going to be -1 and 3, and I can even label it and call it vertex. Now, if I wanted to hide that original graph, oops. Oh, sorry, it should be 2. My mistake. There we go. If I want to hide that original graph, I can come up and just press on that red circle and it will hide it. If I wanted to change this one to be the same color as the other one, I can click on it, hold it, and then I can change the color to match. I could also change the style of it if I wanted it to look different. And I can make it draggable, but I'm not going to drag this one in this case. And I'm going to come back up here to this one. I'm going to click on this so we can see it. And you could change the shape of the line if you wanted, or the style and the color as well. All right, so I've got that. Now when I want to insert that into my page, I press Insert Graph. And it's going to insert it onto the page. Now, if I come in here and I delete this, and I happen to want it back because I realize I've made an error, I'm simply going to click on the graph and press Edit Math, and it will come back and allow me to retrieve all that information, including my notes. All right, so let's just delete all that. All right, let's go on to the second example. So here it's asked us to create a table of values. I'm using the table of values in the actual Google Slides sheet page, because you can create tables in EquatIO using the editor. So here I'm going to put in an X. I'm going to press Enter to give me a new line. And then I'm going to come over and press the column button to add a new column. Then I can go in, I can press a Y, and I can go in and I can press in my numbers. I can insert that. But you will notice that when that does become inserted, let's just edit that again. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to put in one using the equation editor. So just come here, I'm going to type in X. I'm going to hit Enter to give me a new line. I'm going to use the new column button to add a column. I'm going to put a Y in. I'm just going to go 0 and hit the Enter button to move down lines. Right, and now I'm going to insert that math into the page. But you can see that when you do it, it doesn't give you those lines. So you can do it in here. For the purposes that I'm going to use today, I'm going to use the regular table that's in here. So I can just go in and just quickly put in my numbers. Okay, and what I'm going to do is to create that graph, I'm going to replicate it in the graph editor. So I'm going to come to the graph editor button. I'm going to go up to the plus sign. I'm going to go to the table. And you can see it's giving me my X and Y, and I'm just going to follow the same procedure I did before. And using that formula, I can put that in. Now, you will notice that the points start going off the graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my sidebar and look on the blue side, and you'll notice that there's a button here called Zoom Fit. What it actually does is when you press that button, it will readjust the graph so you get the best view of those points. Now, if I wanted to connect those points in a line, I'm going to click and hold on that circle, and I'm going to press the line button, and that's going to allow me to connect them. I'm going to change the color here just because, why not? Actually, let's make it orange. And I'm going to press Insert Graph. And now I have my graph on the page. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you was about using the features from Desmos. So Desmos has its own site. If you've used it before, you may have used it here. So you can go to Start Graphing, and it will open up a very similar screen to what we just saw. Now, inside of here, over on the left, you'll see these menu lines. And what we can do is we can press on these and we can pick from here an example. We can press Open Graph, and then we've got access to the pieces for this. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to copy and paste it into the graph editor inside. Let's get rid of that. Inside of our graph editor, and we have all of those same features. And the benefit of this is then it's saved in that slideshow. So I'm just going to move it like this. You can see that you can drag these to kind of change the way it looks, right? You can make it move. All of the good things that you can do regularly in Desmos, you can now do in here as well. Okay, so I'm going to insert this graph onto this page. So that way, when I want my students to play around and learn about the vertex form and see what the different variables do, they can simply click on it, open it up, and play. All right, so that is the graph editor. If you have any questions, make sure you use the link below to access the EquatIO video question form. Be sure to leave an email so that we can respond to your question. Thank you for watching the video.